Welcome back to Saturday with Mammie K. Today is not Saturday, it is Tuesday. My whole week is messed up.
Tuesday.
Packers are on a short week, so are we.
Yes, we are.
Shopping and shooting all in the same time.
Everything.
And just got word now, Alan Lazard is also out with COVID-19, in case you hadn't heard that news, and he likely will have no way to come back because he can't get two positives in time for Thursday. So with that in mind, we are going to make Mammie K apple pie a la mode with a little bit of pumpkin pie spice season this time of year in the fall, but we're not going to do it the old garbage sugary. We're just going to do it with real whole spices and fruit zest to do something and dress it up a little bit for you. What we're going to focus on real quick though is a French press coffee recipe that's a little different than most people make their French press coffees, which I'm fond of. We're going to show you that in case it gives you a little insight into your coffee making experience, something that you might want to try. And then we're going to have coffee and pie. Sounds good?
Sounds delicious.
All right, you all set?
Yep, I'm set.
Okay, so for our French press coffee, we need, of course, a French press. We need some ground coffee. I'm going to grind this here right now. Obviously, you can buy ground coffee. And a spoon. I have just a cheap restaurant spoon that I bent to make skimming easier, which is our little trick that we're going to add to the French press recipe this time around. You can just use a regular spoon. You don't need anything special for this. But first, let's grind our coffee. Okay, so we've ground our coffee. French press grind is a relatively coarse grind. I use a scale and measure my coffee. You make it your way, whatever ratio works for you. But for me, if you have a scale, it's been very easy, just as a rule of thumb. And if you're in a coffee house, they'll give you all kinds of probably better ratios, but I just do, for every 2 grams of coffee, I do 2 grams of coffee grounds, I do an ounce of water. So I'm going to do 32 grams of coffee. We'll get 16 ounces of water in there to brew, and we'll each have 8 ounces of coffee. Just a small amount. This afternoon, we're not going to load you up on caffeine today. That's probably not a good idea.
Can smell.
We don't want Mammie K bouncing off the walls.
No.
So it's very simple if you're using a scale. All I got to do is just dump it in until I hit 32. And right about there should do it. Okay, now we just got to heat our water. We're going to boil our water. I use an electric kettle, which is really fast and convenient. But we want to get that water. Most coffee makers won't get that water up above the 190s. Want to hit about 195 and brew at that temperature. Temperature is very important. Anytime you're brewing anything, what temperature your water is at is going to determine what compounds are extracted from whatever you're brewing. So if you have a lower temperature, you're going to get some ugly compounds come out of this coffee. We want to make this as clean as possible for you. I don't do this same process every day, but on a Saturday, if I've got a little extra time, and I always want to make sure that temperature is up where it needs to be. But this next process, you don't have to do it this way, but we're going to try it today just to make sure Mammie K's coffee is as good as possible. All right, so we'll be ready as soon as that water is ready. Okay, our water is now boiling, but before we put it in, I'm going to do a little trick. If you have coffee that's not quite as good, this is off the shelf at the grocery store. Yes, we ground it fresh, but it's not the freshest coffee. Just a 2 or 3 finger pinch of salt. I'm going to do a 3 finger since I'm making 16 ounces. What that does is, as salt breaks down, the chloride ions actually fit the bitterness receptors in your mouth. So when you hear people talk about putting salt in coffee to lessen the bitterness, it actually works, and that's how it does it. So part of this salt is going to fit into bitterness receptors, and it will actually smooth out the whole experience. Now, if you got good coffee, you don't need to worry about this, but we didn't have the greatest coffee. So we're just going to go ahead and do that little trick because I thought you might want to know anyway. All right, so now I'm going to switch to ounces, and I've got 32 grams of coffee, so all I need is 16 ounces of water. But first, I'm going to put in about 4 ounces and let it bloom. I'm just going to let it sit for about 10 seconds. Get my thermometer ready. We're going to check that and just see if we can get up over 190 degrees is what we're shooting for. Now you can temp your French press first, get some hot water in it, make sure it's not too cold, but it's the middle of the afternoon, so we're just going to go with it right now. And then after that's bloomed a little bit, I'm going to put the rest of the water in.
What does bloomed mean?
Blooming is you put a little bit of the water in and it will expand, and then some of the carbon dioxide will escape, and it actually helps the coffee infuse into the water.
Oh. Smells good.
That's a good question, actually. I should have. And now we got 16 there. We're good to go there. We're going to give this a stir first. And then we're just gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes. After that, under normal circumstances, you just go ahead and press it and serve it. I got one little step in between. I'm gonna put the lid on. We're gonna try to keep that temperature right at about 190 something.
190
And
something.
we are right on it right now, right on it, maybe a little hotter, which is always good. 90 to 95, I think, is what we're shooting for. All right, so we will start getting the pie ready to go, get the ice cream out. In a few minutes, we're gonna do one more treatment to this coffee, and then we'll be ready to serve. Okay, now that our coffee has brewed for about 4 to 5 minutes, we're gonna take one additional step. A couple of the flaws to French press coffee. One is if you don't pour all the coffee out once it's brewed, it's gonna continue sitting on the grounds and get over extracted. The other is there's a lot of findings in this. Even though it's a coarser ground, there shouldn't be as many findings, but there's a lot of findings in there, and that's just the powdery black stuff that ends up sludge in the bottom of your mug. So we're gonna minimize that with this next step, and we're just gonna take a minute. Now that we've stirred it up, and you can stir it up an extra time in between if you need to, we're gonna take a minute to remove that top layer. It's not gonna hurt anything, that top layer of foam and some of the floating grinds. Is it grinds or grounds, Mom? Coffee grounds?
Grounds.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I usually, down here it's grinds a lot of times.
It smells good though.
Smells good. We're just gonna clean it up. And of course you can just throw this in the sink. I just have a bowl here for our purposes right now. Does take a minute. This is what I'll usually do on a Saturday if I'm lounging around a little bit, or if I have guests. It's always nice because it's you can taste the difference. I'll tell you that much. If you just press this out right now and you poured a cup and then you made another cup this way, it's a much cleaner cup of coffee this way. Okay, so with that done, we're ready to get that out of the way. Now the other step to this is a French press. The press on a French press doesn't actually give you any pressure advantage like a piston on a cappuccino machine, which gets up to like 8 bars of pressure. All this is doing is just filtering out the coffee. So there is absolutely no reason for us to press this filter all the way down to the bottom of the coffee, which is the normal way you do it. I just happened to catch this on YouTube, and I fully agree. There's absolutely no reason to do that. All it's going to do is create turbulence and stir up those findings. More of those then end up in our cup of coffee. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press it down to float to the top of the coffee, and I'm going to watch my pour, and I'm just going to try to keep everything as gentle as possible. Just pour the clean coffee off the top. And if I see any of that findings come up, every time I set it down, it'll settle. There's one for you, Mom.
Thank you.
Cup number 2. I can just draw that back down just in case. And I can see a little bit in the second one, so this one will be for me. But as I'm looking through there, I can see if those findings start to really come up into my cup of coffee. And I'm thinking this one's going to definitely have more. We could even check that at the end, but you can see there's a whole lot less. It's basically clear coffee till right about there. And every time I move back, you can see dark, cloudy findings come up in. I'm going to leave that alone. It might not get wasted anyway. I may drink it later. But now our coffee is ready. Let's go ahead and plate up some pie a la mode with a few extra accoutrements. So to plate this up, we're going to first put down some caramel sauce. I'm not sure exactly what pattern I want here. Maybe something like that. And the pie is store-bought. We just went and bought it and brought it and didn't have to do as much work today, but it's still going to taste good. We're going to make sure of that. I just don't know how well it's going to stay together. We had a little issue with it falling apart, but that's okay. It's still going to taste good.
It'll still taste good.
And to that, we need to put a little more caramel sauce first. And then let's quickly add the ice cream, and we've got this nice and melty, which is always the best. I'm going to put one on top, just like that. Actually, should have put that extra caramel syrup on after that. But on top of this, because it's fall time and everybody gets into this pumpkin pie spice, which I love pumpkin pie, but it's just gone overboard. It is good in the fall, nothing wrong with it in the fall, but we're going to make our own little pumpkin pie spice on top of this just to add a little bit of a flavor punch. So I got a microplane here. Actually, let me use I got a little better tool for that. because we've got some fresh cinnamon, some fresh nutmeg here.
That sounds good.
We're just going to take just a little bit, doesn't need to be a huge amount. It's got a lot of flavor. It's really concentrated. A little bit of nutmeg whole. And then we'll take our microplane and we'll do, let's do some lime zest. Because again, that citrus is a lot of what they put in things around the fall time. It's that last little bit of fresh fruit, and it adds a little color. Yep. And of course, it goes good with chocolate also, so we get a little color in there.
Oh, chocolate.
So we got some, and this is dark chocolate, so that means it's practically a health food anymore. So if you eat dark chocolate, it's nothing but a health food. We're going to put a little bit of that on as well. And I think with that, we've got ourselves a pretty good plate of food.
I think so.
Pretty good slice of apple pie there.
Oh, yes.
And there we have it, apple pie a la mode. We will go ahead and feed Mammie K and get her prediction, which is what many of you are waiting for anyway. So before our coffee gets cold, let's get Mammie K's prediction. Hey, Mom, so everybody wants to know, no Alan Lazard now, potentially no Devontae Adams, no defensive coordinator Joe Barry against the best offense in the league, undefeated Cardinals. What do you got?
I have a prediction. 17 for the Packers, 17 for the Cardinals.
17. So it's a tie?
7. I'm sorry. 7.
17 to 17 is a tie.
7.
17 to 7. So you think Kyler Murray's only going to score 7 points on us this time around? That'd be a pretty good. That'd be a good showing by the defense.
I'm hoping so.
All right.
And also, I guess this is going to be a little a struggle and a little battle. So I think nobody's going to blow anybody out of the stands. I can tell that.
I've heard other people say potential low-scoring affair. All right. What do you think about your food there?
Oh, yes. Give it a try here. Very good. Ooh, I love all the spice on top.
Is it?
Very
aroma more than anything else.
Very good. Very good.
All right, guys. Well, that will do it for us on a short week. For Mammie K and myself, go Pack. Let's hope we can find a way to get this win in the bank.
Go Pack.
Yep. And we'll see you next time, potentially on an actual Saturday with Mammie K.
Packer Nation worldwide.